Hey everybody, welcome back to round 26 of Inside the Clinch. My name is Eric and I'm joined again by my longtime friend Johnny. How you doing, brother?
Doing good. How are you doing? I like the setup in the background.
Thank
I
you.
know
We
you
got
just
a mini new studio down here. We finally completed renovating the basement, which I've been doing with my family for pretty much all of COVID. So,
yeah.
new
It's
studio.
been. I feel like it's been a little bit more than longer than just COVID. No, I feel like it's prolonged for at least a year. You've been working
No, we
on that.
actually started the weekend that everything like shut down for COVID because we were actually supposed to get workers to come do it, and then everyone started getting scared because of the virus. So we just said, screw it, we'll do it ourselves.
Yeah. So if you guys ever need a contractor, floors, walls, anything, call Eric and he's your man.
Holla at your boy. Code word clinch gets you an extra discount.
Oh yeah, for sure. That's a
Yep.
beautiful job though.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Guys, if you haven't already, don't forget to like, subscribe, and comment on social media. On Instagram, we are Inside the Clinch MMA. On Twitter, we are ITC MMA Podcast. And on Facebook and YouTube, we are Inside the Clinch MMA Podcast. So, John, we have a lot to discuss this week. We don't have a
Yeah.
card coming up this weekend.
Yeah, before we get into anything, I just want to give a shout out to the New York Knicks.
Let's go.
First playoff win in 8 years. You know, New York Knicks are my team, so I got to give them a shout out. Shout out, New York Knicks. Let's go. We're gonna take this series. But
Let's,
yeah, let's get into some MMA, man.
I'm excited. They're finally playing well. They finally made it to the playoffs. Wishing them the best of luck.
Dude, I was at the arena. I mean, I told you this already, but I was at the arena, and MSG is just like a totally different vibe. That place, when the New York Knicks are good, that place is just a different atmosphere. Just fucking insane. That whole vibe that night.
The Knicks bring good energy to the city, so when they do good, the city's in a good mood always.
Yeah, when they do good, the NBA is in a good place. So it's nice to see them win. And after pretty much 20 years of garbage basketball, we're finally getting to see some decent basketball. So I just had to mention that. I know you're not the biggest basketball fan, but it is what it is, you know?
Yo, let's go Knicks. All right, moving back to MMA. We had a few interesting cards this past week. We had Bellator, which we had a few very interesting fights. We'll get to that in a second. We also had UFC headlined by Cody Garbrandt versus Rob Font. But first, let's start with Bellator, man. Valerie Loureda, your mommy,
Yeah, that's my girl right there. She's still my girl.
she got her first professional loss this past weekend against Hannah Guy. She started off pretty well. She landed that really nice punch in the first round. In the first, I believe it was like a minute in. And she looked great. She almost finished the fight. But then the rest of the fight didn't really go her way.
Yeah, for the most part, Hannah Guy was able to dominate Valerie Loureda. She did get that knockdown, as you mentioned, but we also have to consider that Loureda, she does have a lot of hype behind her, but that's because a lot of it is because she looks so good. But we have to take into consideration that she's only 22 years old.
Yes.
She did get dominated, but she did show some flashes of good. So like I'm still looking forward to her career, and she's still number one on my MMA baddie list for sure.
Yeah, I think she's definitely. I think age is definitely a factor because I don't want to say lack of experience because I know she does have a solid background in Taekwondo, but I feel like just some more experience and exposure and time in the ring will get her to react better. I feel like there were multiple moments where she kind of like spent time running and kind of I don't know, it was more dramatic movement I feel like than was necessary.
Yeah.
I just feel like it was small details like that. She will learn that as she proceeds to grow the sport. I'm not too worried about that, but she is very young, like you mentioned. She has plenty of time to improve on her games. But we did see that her ground game needs some improvement. Her wrestling reversals were actually very impressive. I was surprised. Hannah Guy attempted a couple of takedowns that Valerie was able to reverse, which is pretty impressive. But unfortunately, once it got to the ground, Hannah Guy is a better jiu-jitsu specialist, so she was able to get into the position she needed.
Yeah, as you mentioned, you definitely could see some of the inexperience that Valerie Lourdes has, but you could see she has flashes. She does have good potential. Um, but I don't really see her being a top athlete in the division. I feel like she's going to be somewhere in the like maybe the top 10 in her career. But what the hell, man? What do I know? But she did look okay, and I don't look at her any differently than I did prior to the fight.
Look, I think I mean, this is me personally. I think if she spent the time in the gym instead of modeling and doing all this other stuff, I feel like the result would have been a little bit different. Male fighter or female fighter, I don't like when fighters get distracted with modeling, with acting, with rapping, with all this extra shit, because it takes away, like I've said previously with T Wood and all these other fighters, it takes away time from the gym. when you're distracted, when you're not focused on the game, I mean, you're not going to get the same results. There are people that are living this game. You know, they breathe the air of this game. Like this is their lifestyle. Like if you're not on the same page, it's going to be hard to keep up.
Listen, I partially agree with that, but I do think that Valerie Loureda does put in a lot of work. I don't think that because she models that takes away. Maybe it does, but I don't think it
I'm
takes
not saying she
away
doesn't
from
put in
her
enough work.
from her MMA career. But you also have to take into consideration that MMA fighters are not really paid that much, especially like in Bellator and all these organizations. She's a good looking girl and she has a fucking huge ass, you know. So she has that going for herself, and like, why not make some money off of it? That's like. I personally don't think, well, that's my personal opinion. I don't think that's harming her, that particular aspect of her career. I just think it's the inexperience. I think she needs more time. And I feel like that's just going to come eventually. And if she wants to make some extra dollars doing the other stuff, then I don't really have a problem with it. But I do see where you're coming from for sure.
Yeah, my only problem is, like I said, male or female, rapping, acting, whatever it is you're doing. When it takes away from other time, you could not necessarily be in the gym, but you could be doing other kinds of workouts or other kind of beneficial stuff to your fight game. But you are right; fighters aren't paid the best, so they've got to do what they got to do to keep food on the
Pay
table.
the athletes, and you pay the athletes, and I'm sure that that's going to go down. If you pay the athletes, like say the fighter goes and makes $1 million, I'm sure that's going to be an incentive not to do other things because they're going to be making so much money from this already. They're going to be like, why do I need to go model and not waste my time, but like do other things when I'm making so much money doing what I do? Why don't I just, but they're not making really much money compared to other athletes, and they're some of the best athletes in the world. So
yeah, I feel like to a degree, I don't think you'll get rid of that completely because unlike other sports in MMA, you kind of have to, promote yourself on your social media. So I guess to a degree, you probably will never really get rid of that. But I feel like limiting that and, just improving where you need to improve. I hope she improves in her jiu-jitsu game. We definitely saw there were holes there. She's an excellent striker. We saw what she was able to do in the beginning of the fight. But, I hope she just works on her wrestling, her jiu-jitsu over the next couple of months. I definitely think we'll see a much more improved Valerie.
yeah, I still have confidence in her, but she did tear a ligament in her right arm, so she's going to be out for some time. But the funny part about this fight is that she lost, and prior to the fight, she was ranked number 8, and she still keeps that position of number 8, because I believe Hannah Guy, this was her debut, so she's like ranked number 9 or 10. Don't quote me on that, but it's not really a huge loss. Valerie Loureda, she's 3-1 now. And I do see a bright future for her for sure.
Yeah, we'll see a comeback for her. Also on that Bellator card, we had Austin Vanderfor. He got a big decision win over Fabian Edwards. What do you think of that fight, man?
Look, dude, a lot of people are not noticing Austin Vanderfor. I know he has Paige Van Zandt. Everybody knows who Paige Van Zandt is, but Austin Vanderford is just kind of going under the radar. This dude is 11-0. Most of his fights are pretty dominant. In this fight with Fabian Edwards, he went 30-27 all 3 rounds. He utilizes wrestling, which was obviously superior to Fabian Edwards, and that got the job done. And don't look at the end of the fight where you see Austin Vanderford bloody. That happened.
I thought that was amazing.
That was like the last few seconds of the fight where Fabian Edwards clipped him with his elbow, and it looked like Fabian Edwards. If you look at the fighters, it looks like Edwards won, but like Austin Vanderfort was able to dominate the entire fight, which was impressive.
Yeah, like you said, the wrestling was a big tool there. We heard even the commentator say from the beginning of the fight that the wrestling is going to be the main difference. Fabian did what he could to try to get up, but he couldn't really do much once he got taken down to the ground. Austin was able to get controls, change positions as he needed, and land the ground and pound all 3 rounds. The ending was really interesting. Like you said, he caught that elbow, and you couldn't at first really tell where the blood was coming from, but you just see both blood on both of them. And then Austin gets up when the fight is over, and he's just like drenched in blood. And he definitely got his hand raised for that fight. So it was just a very epic scene at the end of that fight.
Yeah. The dudes they need to put some respect on his name, man. He's good. Like he's shown that he's top class. He's shown that he has what it takes to be in there with the big boys. And I feel like people need to start putting some respect on his name and start recognizing him as a top contender for sure.
I agree. So let's move on to the main event. Cris Cyborg gets her hand raised and defends her Bellator belt against Leslie Smith. This was the second time they fought. This fight went a lot longer than the first fight did, but still a very, very dominant performance by Cyborg.
Yeah, as you said, the first fight went, I believe, less than 90 seconds. This fight went to the 5th round, And there was like some type of similarly to the Austin Vanderford fight where he landed the elbow. Cris Cyborg was able to take out her opponent in the last seconds of the 5th round. She was able to TKO her, but like the whole fight was just one-sided. Cris Cyborg did Cris Cyborg things, and she was able to dismantle Leslie Smith and just show why she's the #1 female in Bellator right now.
Cris Cyborg, she doesn't have much competition in Bellator, unfortunately.
Not her fault.
It's not her fault. I understand why she made the move to Bellator. You know, financially, it makes a lot more sense. I don't know what she gets paid per fight, but we did see they had the patches. She has big branding. You know, Cyborg Nation is their brand that they kind of put out there all over social media and everything, where they engage with different people. So those channels of revenue kind of, it makes more sense for someone like Cyborg. Now, I just wish they were able to sign more females, and we're having the same problem in the UFC, obviously, where there's a lack of high-level female athletes. But hopefully, we're going to see some evolve over the next couple of years. Sports getting bigger, but
it looks like, yeah. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
I was gonna say I just want there to be more competition for Cyborg because she only has a couple years left. She's in her late 30s now, so we only have a few years to see what this beast has left for her. And I just hope we have a couple of other savages to test her before we see her retire.
Yeah, so I mean, if you look at Bellator right now, it's looking in a pretty good spot. Like, I haven't been this excited for Bellator in a long time. Almost not every week, but every other week, I want to say Bellator posts some really good fights. This weekend, as we just mentioned, with the Austin Vanderford fight, with the Valerie Loureda, Cris Cyborg, they have huge names on these cards. And Anthony Rumble Johnson fought recently, and with the light heavyweight Grand Prix, I feel like they have a lot going for them. And yeah, I feel like the fighters they're gonna eventually get the good fighters that will pose some threat to the top dogs like Amanda Nunes in the UFC and Cris Cyborg in Bellator.
Yeah, only a matter of time, I guess. But yeah, look, she's gonna hold that Bellator belt for a while, in my opinion. I don't really see anyone on their roster at the moment that poses a threat.
Yeah, I mean, we have to give her a lot of credit. The competition, no competition. She has 19 KO knockouts in her career, 13-1 in title fights. And she's now, I believe, 2-0 in Bellator. So she is pretty dominant. There's one flaw on her resume, and that's the fight with Amanda Nunes where she got knocked out. Maybe she came into that fight a little hot, maybe a little too aggressive. So if they would have run it back, who knows how that fight would have went. But for the most part, Cris Cyborg is just an outstanding fighter. And she wasn't really fighting, a bad opponent. Leslie Smith, since losing to Cyborg in 2016, she went on a 4-1 winning streak. So she was not no scrub. So give the competition what it is,
I don't know about you. One thing I feel like that's happening with Cris Cyborg, and I don't know if it's the age, I don't know what exactly it is, but I feel like her knockout power isn't there anymore. I feel like in the past, her last couple of fights, her opponents, those are types of opponents where she would have easily been able to put them out in the first round or two, like she did on her, come up in the UFC. Over her last few fights, I don't know if the power is decreasing, or I don't know, maybe the level of competition that she's fighting is maybe getting better, but I feel like that knockout power isn't there anymore. She's still very strong. She's still one of the hardest punching females in that division. But I feel like she used to have more power. She used to knock people out more. I don't know. That's just my opinion. I don't know if you've noticed that as well or not.
Yeah, I could see what you're saying. How old is she right now? She's like in her late 30s, right?
She is 35. So
she's 35. So it's so many years of fighting, I mean, I'm sure that takes a toll on your body, and plus the age in combination with that. So maybe that's a factor, but she's still, regardless of her power, she's still able to, her volume is just insane, that she doesn't get tired.
Yeah.
And I believe she still throws pretty hard, maybe not as hard as she once did, but it's enough to take out pretty much any girl in Bellator right now. So she's doing something right,
Yeah. So moving on, we also had UFC this past weekend. A few interesting fights. I did not get to see the entirety of the card, but I did go back and catch a couple of the big fights. One of the first ones I rewatched the next morning was Jack Hermanson versus Edman Shahbazyan. So one thing I want to say off the top, that fight was not as biased as the media made it out to be, because I watched it all the next day. So I already kind of, saw some headlines of people like, I know Ariel Helwani said it, some other reporters said that Edman Shahbazyan, he was too young. He had no business in the octagon with Hermanson. It was a very dominant performance, but it wasn't like a Holloway Ortega situation, where it kind of looked like one completely outclassed the other. Edman Shahbazyan, I thought he did decent in the first half of the fight. The second half, I don't know, maybe he got tired or, he just got his ass beat, but I thought he started off okay. Jack Hermanson is a big threat though. I mean, he is making a comeback after that loss that he had. So he's going to be a threat in that division.
Yeah, as you said, I thought that Edmund Shahbazyan actually won the first round. It
Yep.
was clear who the more dominant striker was, and that was Edmund Shahbazyan. But in the second round, Jack Hermanson was able to make a tweak in his game plan, and he just relied on his wrestling and was basically able to dominate Edmund Shahbazyan on the floor. In terms of, is Edmund Shahbazyan ready for this? I mean, we thought he was. He was 11-0, and then he has a loss now to Brunson and now to Jack Hermanson. I think that he just needs more time to develop. I do believe that. He needs to work on his wrestling, because in the UFC you could be a phenomenal striker, but if you don't have at least some takedown defense, you don't have to be an outstanding wrestler, but you need to know how to stop the takedowns, and that's a skill that he currently doesn't have, and he definitely needs to improve on that if he wants to make a statement in the UFC.
Yeah, I agree. Like you said, I also agree that he won the first round. He was making good use of that jab. He was moving his head very well. So he was moving around, fairly well. But Hermanson took the fight to the ground where he was able to, assert control. Got similar to what we saw in the Austin Vanderford fight. He was able to get him down and put him in the positions that he wanted and land that ground and pound and piece him apart.
Easily, bro. Easily. When he got him to the floor, it was just like you could just see the difference in level of grappling, difference in level of jiu-jitsu. That's not to say that Edmund Shahbazyan is not good in those things, but I feel like he just needs more development in those particular aspects, because his striking is just beautiful. If you rewatch the first round, he completely outclassed Jack Hermanson, and that's why Jack Hermanson made the switching game plan and started utilizing his wrestling, which gave him the win.
Yeah, I mean, like you said, Shibazian is another one of those guys like Valerie, still very young in their careers, plenty of time to improve. And, he's also in a good gym, trains with Savages out in LA. So
LA.
I think he definitely has the time to improve, and he has the ability to improve. He's very young. I don't want to see him jump too far ahead in competition. I hope he stays, I don't know, maybe between 10, 15 rankings of opponents, you know what I mean? Just to build himself back up.
I actually have a great fight for him, and I think you might agree. What about Kevin Holland?
That's funny. I actually had him down for Kevin Holland as well.
Because they're going through similar struggles with their inexperience in wrestling. So let them fight each other and like develop a little bit more before fighting people that are really good wrestlers that they're most likely going to lose unless they get not a lucky knockout, but if they're able to land something special,
Yeah, that's actually very funny. I was thinking Kevin Holland as well when I was preparing for this episode today. It makes all the sense in the world in that division. Both guys fairly young, both guys coming off a couple of losses, both guys are, needing to fix improvements in their game. Makes sense. They're in the same weight class, pretty much around the same ranking. I would say.
Both fighters young. They don't really, time is not an issue right now. Develop, fight each other, make some money, and then when you're ready, go fight the big boys in the division.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree. So what's next for Jack Hermanson then?
I think for Jack Hermanson, I think they should put him up with Derek Brunson.
I agree with Derek Brunson also, actually. I think that makes the most sense.
Yeah, Brunson relies heavily on his wrestling. So does Hermanson. So they're both pretty average on the feet, I would say. So I feel like that's a great matchup, and the winner would definitely progress in the division.
If that fight doesn't play out, though, I think maybe a fight against Robert Whitaker wouldn't be a bad idea either. And you can have that fight as the number one contender fight. The winner is the next to fight for the belt. Whitaker is on a bit of a comeback. I think he needs one more solid win. And I think if he can get his hand raised against someone like Hermanson, it could be a solid statement and get him a rematch finally.
I think both fighters, both Brunson and Hermanson, would be ecstatic if they got the opportunity to fight Whitaker. That would be probably one of the biggest names on the resume if they were to beat Whitaker. But I personally don't think that fight is going to happen right now, at least, You
don't think it makes sense for Whitaker?
I don't think it makes sense for Whitaker right now because what does he gain? These fighters are ranked. So Hermanson is ranked number 6. Whitaker is top 1, 2, 3. He's somewhere there.
Yeah, I guess.
What is he? Yeah, he doesn't. I think Whitaker should just wait to fight for the belt.
I want to see him win one more time. Look, I mean, the same shit's gonna happen without Adesanya the first time. You know what I mean? Maybe one more camp.
Who knows? Whitaker looks good now.
3 camps and 2 camps is a big difference. You can look at a lot of the high level fighters. You can look at someone like Adesanya. Look at him 2-3 camps ago. It's a completely different Adesanya than now.
I agree with you. But Adesanya, you also have to remember that's coming off a loss of his first loss in the UFC.
You're right.
I know he went up in weight division, but you never know how this affects fighters because the mental game is almost as important as the physical game. So We don't know how Israel is going to deal with that. Although he does have losses in his career outside of the UFC in his kickboxing career. So maybe he knows how to deal with it well, but we just don't know at this time. So who knows how the fight with Whitaker is going to go.
Yeah, I guess we have to see how that all plays out. No, on the co-main event of that card, we had Carla Esparza getting her hand raised against Yao Shannan. She had a very excellent game plan. She took Yao Shannan to the ground, was able, another great dominant performance. Like you said, if you don't have an answer to the wrestling, you're just going to get dominated. And that's exactly what we saw from Yao Shannan from the beginning of the first round. Esparza was able to take her down, grapple, cut her open. The second round, we did see Yan Xiaonan do okay when, the first minute was on the feet, but then again, Carla took it right back to the ground and finished her in the second round.
Yeah, prior to this fight, I was actually going to text our group chat with some of our friends, and I was going to say bet the house on Yan. But, I didn't have the complete confidence to say that, but I did really think that Yan was going to take it because if you look at the fighters, Yan is just so much bigger than Carla Esparza is. But as you said, the wrestling was the big difference in this fight. And Esparza landed an impressive 170 out of 194 punches in total. That's an 88% accuracy clip. So
that's a lot of volume too.
It's a lot of volume. And she landed all three of her takedowns. So she made a statement on Saturday night. And if she wants a title fight, I'm not going to oppose that, but I do think she should fight maybe either Zhang or Joanna prior to the title fight. But I do think that the matchup with her and Rose is a bad matchup for Rose because with her wrestling, you never know. She could take Rose down. Rose is not really a grappler. So I feel like unless Rose is able to keep the distance, it could be a pretty tough night for Rose.
So Carla Esparza is calling for the belt, obviously. For those that don't know, Carla Esparza fought Rose Namajunas for the inaugural strawweight belt at the end of the TUF finale. So they were the first two females to fight for that belt. And Carla Esparza got her hand raised. This is years later. Rose has the belt now. Carla Esparza wants her fight. She wants her belt back. Personally, I kind of want to see the rematch against Rose and Zhang Weili play out first. So if that doesn't happen, then definitely Carla Esparza, I think, has the next claim. But in the meantime, I think Carla Esparza should maybe fight someone like Joanna. Joanna is also gunning for that belt back. She's had, not the best streak as of late compared to earlier in her career. I think if Joanna can beat Carla, it'll put her right back into title contention. And I think if Carla beats Joanna, she has to get the next title shot after the Weili situation's figured out.
Listen, brother, we found Kevin Lee, right? Kevin Lee, which we're going to discuss a little bit later. Kevin Lee has a fight booked with Sean Brady. So we found Kevin Lee. Now, where the hell is Joanna? We need to get this girl out of lockdown. Like, she's been gone for so long. I know that hematoma was brutal and hard to overcome, but I want to see her fight somebody like Joanna. I agree with that for sure. That's going to be a great step in competition for her. And if she defeats Joanna, that's a huge win for her. And you can't deny the title from her after win over Joanna.
Absolutely. One thing to say, Carla Esparza actually did fight Joanna back in 2015. She lost via second round TKO. But like you said, the wrestling could be a big thing here. Joanna is not a wrestler by any means. She's a Muay Thai boxer. So she's very, very dominant in the striking, not so dominant in the wrestling. So if Carla has, been able to change her game up and figure out how to get Joanna to the ground and keep her there, she may be able to get her hand raised. That would be an interesting fight, I think.
Yeah, I was very impressed by her performance on Saturday night, and I feel like she's a threat to pretty much anyone in that division at this time. So book them all, man. I'm excited for all of them.
All right, main event of that card. Cody Garbrandt lost to Rob Font in the main event. I don't know, man. Cody, he's on a bit of an unlucky streak. I don't know. Maybe he's deteriorating as an athlete.
You want to call it unlucky? You think it's luck?
Maybe the TJ situation may have been luck, I guess. After that, not so much.
But TJ fucking washed him. There was no luck in that.
Yeah,
Cody
EPOs though.
Look, I guess, but then he lost.
Yeah. All right. So let's rewind for everyone that missed the fight. So Cody Garbrandt lost pretty much all 5 rounds on a decision. One judge saw it 48-47. The other 2 judges called it 50-45. Cody, I don't know, man. I feel like he's only looking for that one punch knockout lately over his last few fights. One thing that bothered me about his performance is how many times he tried to do that ducking punch that he caught a sunset with. He did it way too many times. And it was just like, dude, come on, either hide it better or I don't know.
It's so expected. Like obviously he's
Yeah.
gonna be looking for that. Like that's your last. That's the last time you won was like by that, and you kept doing that same motion. Like everyone knows what's about to come. So yeah, I agree with you on that.
I actually saw a funny meme. When Cody Garbrandt or Tyron Woodley don't have that overhand right against the fence, and it's just the guy nervous and sweating because it feels like that's all the two of them know how to do. It's like if Cody can't just get that knockout in one punch, it's like I don't know. Rob Font did a great job though, in my opinion. He utilized the jab very very well. Was able to keep Cody away. He did have a reach advantage, so it was a very smart game plan by him. Cody did have some good takedowns. It was the most takedowns he ever got in a fight. I believe three takedowns was the final number. So he was able to get solid takedowns, but I feel like he didn't do enough once he got
That was yeah, he was able to get the takedowns in the beginning of the fight, but towards the middle and later rounds, he wasn't able to get the takedowns. And with Cody Garbrandt, he's a wrestler. He comes from a wrestling background, but he usually doesn't use his wrestling in MMA. So maybe by using his wrestling in the first rounds, maybe he tired himself out. Maybe that could be a reason why his performance was lackluster. Also, Cody was going through COVID. Apparently, he had some blood clots and pneumonia. I'm not sure if that affected him, but maybe. But right now, honestly, I don't know what the deal with Cody is. I don't know what he's going through, if it's something mental. And I don't know what the solution for him is either. I don't really see him being a champion anymore. He's 1-4 in his last 5. Like he's obviously has potential. If you look at him, he does have potential, but like he just needs to piece it all together, and that's something that he's not able to do. And I don't know if he's ever going to be able to do that, to be honest with you.
Yeah, one thing Rob Font did very well is he got Cody fighting off his back foot. He was backing Cody the entire fight from start to finish. Cody was backing up. Rob Font was hunting him down. And that I think that's one of the big ways how you stop someone with a style like Cody, where he can't stand there and bang with you. I do want to say Cody did seem to improve a little bit in the sense that he didn't go in there recklessly like he usually does. Towards the last round, he did a little bit, but at that point, he wasn't really winning the fight anyway, so he didn't have much to lose. So I did like that improvement on Cody, but I don't know. Cody needs to figure out, I guess, what to do when he's getting backed up, how to move out, or I don't know. He needs to figure it out. Like you said, piece it all together. I also don't like how low he keeps his hands all the time. That's part of the reason Rob Font was able to land so many jabs and solid ones to Cody's face. I don't
And
know, man.
Cody was able to absorb those punches, which was very surprising. Even the commentators were saying that, if you ever questioned Cody's chin, like he just proved you wrong. I don't agree with that. I think that Rob Font didn't hit him hard enough. Cody's chin is Cody's chin. I feel like with the right hit, he's gonna get knocked out. But give him credit, I guess. But it's kind of sad to see his fall, because he was so highly regarded, top prospect in the division when he fought Dominic Cruz. Great fight, perfect performance, and after that, all went downhill. And I hope he figures it all out.
I mentioned this before. Cody is one of those guys. I hate to use the word lucky, but he did have somewhat of a lucky career. So he was fortunate enough to make his UFC debut and win the title shot within a calendar year, which is almost unheard of in any other weight division, especially if you go one of the stacked ones. I think he was lucky because Dominic Cruz was in that division. He was champion for so long. There really wasn't much competition for Dominic. And Cody, I think, was the one young up and comer. He was beating everyone by knockout, and he was able to beat Dominic Cruz via unanimous decision. I feel like maybe that streak, it was a bit of a hype streak. Maybe it was just perfect timing with everything. But I feel like ever since those losses he had to TJ and I think Munoz, something is not the same. I don't know what it is. He trains with savages. I know he's in a solid gym and trains with solid people. But I don't know. He does need to piece it together. And I think I don't want to hear anybody say that Cody is in title contention until he wins 3 fights in a row, because he lost 3 in a row. He got 1 knockout against the Sunso. That's it. They want to put him in title fights in 2 different weight classes. Like, dude, you can't fucking do that. I'm sorry. Like, let him get 3 in a row, and then we'll talk about if or when he deserves a title shot.
Yeah, I'd love to see him fight. I know Sean O'Malley has a fight booked already, but I'd love to see that fight. I feel like Sean O'Malley, at this point, Sean O'Malley's going to knock him out.
He's going to fucking destroy him, bro. He's so much bigger than Cody. Sean O'Malley's pretty big. Cody's
he's lanky and very versatile in his striking as well, and in his Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. But let's talk about Rob Font. I know Cody has the big name, but Rob Font put on a performance. He dominated Cody Garbrandt. A lot of people doubted him, but he was able to put on a performance of a lifetime. So kudos to Rob Font. I was very impressed, and I do believe that he deserves either a title shot or the winner of TJ and Sandhagen, which he clearly said that he wants.
I like the latter. The TJ versus Sandhagen winner, I think, makes a lot of sense for him. I think stylistically it'll be exciting. But I don't know if necessarily he can get it done. You know, those are some very experienced big names that he's calling out. Styles make fights, though. I do think that his style will be a very interesting mix, but I don't know if he can beat either of them realistically.
Yeah, they'll be tough fights, but man, who knows?
Look, Rob Font is also one of those guys that's been going under the radar in the UFC. He's had some very big wins, and you know people still aren't really talking about him.
He has the most knockouts. He has the most knockouts in the division, bro. He punches hard, which is kind of surprising how he wasn't able to knock out Cody.
Yeah, I don't know. Styles make fights, man. I think that fight makes sense as far as rankings, but I think Font needs some more improvements before he takes a fight like that.
Yeah, so I mean, as of right now, I feel like he deserved it. I don't know how the outcome is going to be when he fights those fighters, but at this point, he deserves the opportunity to fight those fighters. Is all I'm trying to say.
All right, guys, that's going to be it for this week of Inside the Clinch. We're going to be releasing another podcast early next week to follow up with some news topics going on. There's no UFC events this weekend. It's going to be Memorial Day weekend, so everyone's getting a break. Hope everyone gets to spend it at the beach, spend it barbecuing, spend it, with some friends, have a beer, enjoy the weekend. But we'll be following up next week, and we'll have a bunch more news topics for you guys, and hopefully some predictions for the upcoming event, Rosenstrike versus Sakai. As always, don't forget to like, subscribe, and comment. On Instagram, we are Inside the Clinch MMA. On Twitter, we are ITC MMA Podcast. And on Facebook and YouTube, we are Inside the Clinch MMA Podcast. Thank you, guys. Catch you next week.